Hi, I'm Andy Whitehurst. What are the key drivers for organisations to undertake data and analytics initiatives, and how are organisations driving value from their data? These are two key questions that Sopra Steria really wanted to understand. So we worked with computing and went out to the market and surveyed over 120 IT professionals to understand their view. Today, I'd like to spend some time talking through some of the findings. So I'd like to welcome alongside me Tom Wright, who's the Content Director from Computing, and we're going to explore some of the things that came out of our survey. So, first of all, how are organisations working to drive value from their data?
Well, the good news is we've got a very positive situation as far as adoption goes, with 68% of enterprises trying out big data and analytics projects in the last 3 years, and 70% planning to extend on that in the coming 12 months. Key drivers behind this are attempting to achieve cost reductions to make the business more efficient and to improve customer experiences, which is a significant change. It's becoming much more closely aligned to the business. Value what people are looking for is about real-time decision making and moving towards predictive analytics. So actually understanding not what customers have done in the past, but what they're likely to do in the future. People seem to be struggling quite a bit with unstructured data and getting value out of that. So there's confidence with RDBMS and less so when you start to look at data which is outside of traditional database structures.
So one of the other things, when asked about the maturity of their data and analytics strategy, I think there was 12% of UK organisations that really felt that they were optimised in terms of that strategy. And despite, therefore, an awful lot of activity and a lot of buzz and a lot of investment within data and analytics within the industry, it seems as if organisations are really struggling. They're struggling to actually drive value and they're struggling to be mature in their thinking. Can you just explain what the research was showing in this space?
Well, it did show that people had significant struggles on their journey towards perfect big data analytics. I mean, Gartner state that 2 out of 5 projects fail. And I think sometimes we're looking at that in a quite harsh way. So yes, only 12% have got everything ticking and purring along absolutely perfectly. But let's just have a look at some of the significant challenges people have with that. Key in the research that came out was a struggle with legacy issues. Now, obviously, if you're a large enterprise, you're going to have numerous mission-critical applications, each back-ended with separate databases, potentially with separate storage infrastructure around them. That means bringing data together is a tremendous challenge in itself. So you're going to have problems with that. Then there's all sorts of different data, some of which you're going to trust perfectly and some of you're not. And you'll be familiar with the saying about databases, rubbish in, rubbish out. And that is clearly an issue for people. Behind the technical issues, there are real difficulties with organising people to make big data strategies come through. And you hear a lot of things which really add up to internal politics. So people saying the company lacks a vision. Or we have poor communication internally. And these are things that suggest that people aren't managing to align around a single objective and to talk properly and clearly about working towards the same goal. Obviously, if you've got that kind of challenge in your organisation, chucking more money at the technology is not necessarily going to fix it. You're going to need to have a solution which is about communications, about strategy and about human beings. What kind of issues do you see with your customer base, Andy?
Well, it's interesting because I think you're starting to touch on some of those points there. But what we're seeing where there is a strategy in place, it lacks some of that alignment. It's often, a data and analytics strategy is often hidden within IT, or it's driven too much by technology and not enough by business outcome. So in our opinion, the strategy has to be business led. It needs to be IT enabled, but IT is only one part of the jigsaw. We've got to look at the people and the process side of things to avoid the rubbish in, rubbish out that you talk about. And I think to take that even further, not just does it need to be aligned to the business objective, but there needs to be a very clear line of sight as well. Yeah. So, and I think these kind of initiatives need to deliver value very quickly. They need to work in quite an agile, or be delivered in quite an agile manner, so that they can either fail fast or that they can demonstrate real tangible value very quickly and build momentum and get more support, and that in itself will bring IT and the business together. And I think another key point you've picked up on, maybe the third part for me, is about the governance. So it's about making sure that you've got your data ownership in place. There's an understanding of what good looks like in terms of the data. And again, the governance is people, process and technology enabled, but there needs to be a very coherent kind of approach to that across the business with IT support, but not just an IT responsibility.
Well, that certainly comes across clearly in the research. And we'll see areas where the conversation absolutely belongs to the IT team. So if you're looking at infrastructure and you're looking at software, for example, you really don't want your CEO to decide whether we're going to work with Hadoop or Apache Spark. That is a decision for the tech team. But this business of aligning it, of making sure that technology guys are working towards objectives which deliver concrete benefit for the business as a whole, appears to be the key challenge. And for me, perhaps the most interesting thing in here is how it shows that engaging with third parties makes a major difference for a lot of people. Obviously, with 120 completes on a survey, if you've got small variations, you can't state with absolute authority, but there does seem to be a clear benefit for organisations who are engaging with third parties, as they are far more confident about their end outcome. And I think that relates to another thing that comes out in the survey, which is a lack of skills. And if you're engaging in new things, doing different things with technology, sometimes it makes an awful lot of sense to reach out to a third-party organisation if your organisation lacks the skills, or you spend a lot of time struggling in the dark.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Tom. So I think for me, it comes down to three key takeaways. First of all, if your organisation doesn't already have a data and analytics strategy, then it's key that you work on one of those. I think you need to make sure in building that strategy that you've got the appropriate amount of engagement with the business. And again, as we mentioned earlier, it needs to be aligned to some key business outcomes so that you have that alignment, but you also build the momentum with the business and you get the sponsorship from the business. And I think a point that Tom touched on there is about the third-party help. There are skills gaps in order to achieve your objectives around data and analytics. Things like data scientists are either very niche skill within the market or a very expensive skill within the market. So using your third-party contacts, your business-to-business contacts appropriately to fill those skill gaps is absolutely key. And I think final point really, one of the things that we found organisations struggle with is really understanding not only where they need to be, but actually where they are today. So we have various tools and techniques. We can come and work with organisations to help them understand where they are, look at their maturity. We can use our model to look at their maturity and to help them to build a roadmap that brings the business on board, but also is enabled by IT and sets a pragmatic, practical target point to work towards. So that's the end of our interview for today. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you found the insight very useful. If you'd like to dive into any more detail behind the survey, then please do feel free to go to our website. If you go to www.soprasteria.com/data, then you can get access to the survey results and our opinion papers. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.